Hi everyone, this is Elena of the Witches Box, and I'm here today with another episode of Witch BookTube, and today we're going to be talking about a book called Healing Ancestral Karma, Free Yourself from Unhealthy Family Patterns by Dr. Stephen D. Farmer. So really quick, before I go into anything, it's really lovely. It's a beautiful book. It feels really good. I hadn't heard of him. This was recommended to me. But interestingly, when I got home and I had the book and I'm kind of like arranging my life because I keep rearranging books and trying to pull out what I'm going to read when. And I keep rearranging my TBR cart because it's so sexy cute and I love it. Anyway, and all of that, I recognized the name Dr. Stephen Farmer because I moved this box and I had no idea that here's the thing, and this is kind of embarrassing. I love this deck, and some of you will recognize this deck because you have it, but also because I use this deck, I don't know, for 1, 2, maybe 3 months in a row at some point in the Witches Box history, which is 2 years old. And I sent each box one card as an oracle reading to each box, as I do, right? And a lot of you had commented on how this is like one of your favorite cards. This is a beautiful deck, and so it was just interesting. I thought that I hadn't heard of the author before. I hadn't actually paid attention to the creator of this deck, even though this is a deck that I have used a lot over the years. It's really a beautiful, I'm going to show you a couple of the cards. This is not part of the book review, but it kind of is. I'm not going to review the deck. Obviously, I love the deck. But they're really beautiful, vibrant images with themes that really, for a long time, were really speaking very deeply to me. I just put out a post on 5 different ways to use oracle cards. Oracle cards can be incredibly powerful and transformative to work with. And so for a very long time, I was really working with these themes and they very much spoke to me. And over time, you're going to notice that sometimes they speak to you, sometimes they don't. It's a phase thing, I think, but beautiful cards. In any case, this writer did this deck, and I'm going to read you the bio and then get into the book. Dr. Stephen D. Farmer is a licensed psychotherapist, shamanic practitioner, soul healer, international lecturer, and ordained minister. He is the author of several best-selling books, including Sacred Ceremony, Animal Spirit Guides, and Earth Magic. He makes his home in Dana Point, California with his wife and stepdaughters, and you can visit Dr. Farmer online at www.earthmagic.net, and magic is spelled only with a C, there is no K. This book was kind of a bittersweet read. By no fault of the book at all. After coming off of the last book, I feel like no other book on ancestral work is going to like match up at all. I feel a little bad about that. I feel like it places this book at a disadvantage. I stand by my 5-star review for the prior book, which was Ancestral Medicine by Dr. Danielle 4. After coming off of that book, reading this book felt like it wasn't as good, and I didn't want to read this book with that judgment in mind. I didn't want to compare it, but of course, at some point, it's kind of impossible to not be comparing one book to the previous book experience. It's just what it is. That said, I couldn't quite figure out, like, I thought this is a 4, maybe this is a 3-star, and in the end, I feel like this is a 3.5, even though there's no way to mark it as a 3.5 on Goodreads. So what do I want to say about this book? I didn't read this, actually, so there's that disclaimer. I listened to this book on audio because I was doing more driving. I think that I'm over and past my snobbery over, like, oh, an audiobook isn't really reading a book. It's kind of amazing how many books you can actually squeeze into your life when you have them playing in your car if you drive a lot. I am now a fan. I can't believe it. I don't really do it when I'm at home. Because we're on the top of this hill, to get to a grocery store, it's literally at least an hour to get off the hill one way, and then you have to drive another hour to come back. So I get a lot of time in the car to listen, which is fantastic. Listening to this book, that experience for me was, what I noticed was it felt very much about the individual's internal process around ancestral healing. In other words, it covers so many modalities of internal excavation, automatic writing, mediumship. He talks about using psychedelics towards the end. It's something that it used to be controversial. I think that we have moved along and evolved enough in our awareness and the research that's been going on around psychedelics that has been so exciting and so, I mean, kind of revolutionary. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't know what kind of link I would give you. I need to find something that's reputable, but a lot of really like big hospitals, big universities are doing a lot of research around using mushrooms and psychedelics. I don't want to use the word heal, but to shift the response in the brain, the neurological response in the brain to trauma, and processing through that in such a way where the person comes out at the other end of the experience much, I don't want to say healed, but much closer to healed. It's kind of exciting and amazing stuff. In any case, he talks about that here. He talks about, also, please don't do that without a professional. I don't know if I have to say that, but be responsible and do your homework. So he talks about many, that's just one, many modalities through which to do your own internal excavation and ritualing in order to understand the dynamic of trauma and ancestral patterns that are passed down generation to generation. So I appreciated that because I think that you can never have enough. And I feel also that we all approach our own personal truth and our own personal self-inquiry from different angles. We have different needs and we have different skills and we have different sets of awarenesses around our internal terrain. So the more options you have around exercises to access those parts of you, I think the better, right? You can never have too many. You can experiment. If something doesn't work with, if it doesn't work with maybe, let's say, automatic writing, maybe you can try something else in terms of trance work or a different type of meditation or journaling, like all these different types of tools that are out there that you can use to access those parts of you. That is really what I enjoyed about this book, what I think is really valuable about this book, the amount of different options for addressing and identifying intergenerational issues, traumas, and patterns that you may want to work on healing. As a partner to the other book from last week, absolutely. I think that this would be fantastic. I still think that the other book is the comprehensive from A to Z journey. I really do. This gives you a deeper list of the different things that you can do to understand patterns and things that need to be healed with your ancestors. I want to really quickly read to you the table of contents. So this book is broken up into two sections. The first one is, if you've read any of the books that I reviewed at this point, you are probably going to be really familiar with the first few chapters. It's about 25 pages, but I think it's probably a requirement at this point. If you're going to write a book about ancestors, you need to identify who they are. So the first section is titled Getting Acquainted with the Ancestors, and then the following chapters discuss that. So it's ancestral veneration, cultural views and practices, the holy evenings of the dead, 3 types of ancestors, and earthbound spirits. All of that in some way or another has been covered in the other books that I have reviewed for all of you. And then the second part is different ways to make contact with the ancestors and doing healing work. So those chapters, I'm just going to read you the list. Perceiving spiritual messages, blocks to receiving and perceiving, near-death experiences and ancestors, communication with the ancestors, mediumship. He goes pretty in-depth into energy, DNA, and ancestors. Quantum mechanics, biocentrism and consciousness, visiting your parents' grave, automatic writing, divination with the ancestors, animal spirit guides as messengers, ancestor sitting and ancestor walking, ancestors, past lives and reincarnation, creating a family altar and a family tree, trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder, family secrets, the dark law, changing your genes, First Heal Thyself, treatment modalities, addiction and the 12-step programs, shamanism and shamanic healing, guidelines for healing ancestral karma, energy healing for an ancestor, forgiving yourself, forgiving another, intergenerational healing, changing the story, stepping back into the ancestors, how I met an old one, we meet again, death, and the last one is the soul's evolution after death. This is a really good book. I'm not going to lie, it's a really good book. I wouldn't give it a 5. It's not quite a 4 either, partly because what I like about it, which is what I've already said, is that you have, as you heard in the table of contents as well, you're going to get a long list of different ways to connect with your ancestors and different ways to work with them. And it's such a long list that you only get a little bit of each of it. Does that make sense? So you never really go deep into genetics. You never go deep into psychedelics. You never go deep into automatic writing. You just get like the overview. So on the one hand, it's great because it gives you a pretty broad idea of all the different ways that you can do this kind of work, but then it doesn't go deeper into each of them so that you can dive deep into a specific type of work. Does that make sense? So it certainly does not prevent you from taking this information and then doing further research for yourself. So in that sense, it's a really great outline for you, and it gives you enough of a beginning that you can go deeper yourself if you do your own research beyond that. So I think that that's probably why I was in this, like, it's a 4, but maybe not really. It's kind of a 3. I would probably give it a 3.5 and let it be that. As a companion to the other book, which is, again, Ancestral Medicine, I think it's fantastic. I'd get it. But if you only want to get one book, definitely just get that one. That book was really good. It's sitting now on my altar. I have a very small amount of books that are still downloading for me. You know, when you read a book and it kind of shakes up your brain, it shakes up your soul, and you feel like, oh, that was a life-changing. Like my fives are that for me. And when I have a book like that, that's a five, that I still feel like I finished reading it maybe almost 2 weeks ago. I finished reading that book. I am still digesting that book in a really big way. Since then, that book is on my altar with a couple of other books that I feel I am still in communication with in the ethers. Does that make sense? There's a part of my subconscious that's still in dialogue with the book and downloading that wisdom, because it was just so amazing and there was just so much there. So that book is on my altar. So when a book is like altar worthy, you know it's good. This is a book that I did not have on my list of books that I was originally going to read about ancestors, but it just kind of popped up. Someone said something about it and I read it. I'm still trying to make my way through Christopher Penchak's Mighty Dead. There may be one or two more that have snuck into the list. It may be that this is too many books on ancestral work. If it is and you're like, Elena, I'm so over it, let me know. I'm probably still going to read them only because it's just where I'm at right now. And then there's a huge list of other things that I'm diving into for the upcoming months. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you've been doing the work, if you've done the reading. I'd love to hear about that down below. There's 2 books on hollows that I want to share with you, and there's one on trans work that I want to share with you because I think that it would also be a really great support for those of you who are working with this month, October's box. So there's a lot happening. My reading list is really quite jam-packed, so stay tuned. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you've done any work. Let me know if there are other books on ancestral work that you have read that I have not covered. I'd love to hear about those as well. And that's it for today. Make sure to subscribe. Please make sure to ring the bell so that you get notifications whenever we have something new here. By the time this comes up, I think the second week of October, the next giveaway is coming up very quickly. I think next week I'm going to be announcing another giveaway because it's going to be the week before Hollows. I may actually have enough books to do 2 winners, so you get 5 books each, but we'll see because I have like a pile of 5 and a pile of 3. There may be 2 things that I can add to that so that there's actually 2 winners, which is very exciting. So look out for that for next week, but again, subscribe and sign up for notifications so that you know when things come up, and I will talk to you again soon.